Okay, so we're up to the final daf in the Daf Yomi, 3-month journey, Bezra, Berech. It's been nice. Gonna miss it. So we're discussing Vidui and discussing Ne'ilah. We saw that there's a shita that Shmuel shita is Avanachnu Chatanu is the Ikka Vidui. Saying the words Avanachnu Chatanu, that's the Ikka Vidui. And Shmuel, when he heard those words, he got up. So we're up to Pei Zayin Amid Beis, where the lines get wide up when they're still short. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines up. Shema. Kran Hasam, 6 lines up. B'shleisha prokim bashana, 3 times a year. Kohanim nosim es kapehem, they duchin 3 times a day, and arba pa'amim, and sometimes even 4 times a day. Biyom, b'yom. B'shachris, b'musaf, b'mincho, b'nilas sha'arim. The Kahanim, Derek Klal fellas did not duchin on by mincha because of shikras, because of drunkenness. But these days, when you didn't eat, right, then therefore you don't have to worry about mincha. So, and there are some days where there's musaf and some days where there's ne'ilah. So you can be up to 4 times. They're not okay. Be'eluhin shleisha prakim. These are the 3 times they would go ahead and do by mincha. B'taniyos on a tainis. Uba ma'amados. Gemara in Tainus describes what the ma'amados were. These are days of certain individuals would go in and fast and say, and learn, go through Bereshis and say Tillim. Will be Yom Kippurim. Now Yom Kippur would be 4 times. Now my Ne'ilah Sha'arim. What is Ne'ilah Sha'arim? What is Ne'ilah? In other words, what is Ne'ilah? Rav Amar Silusa Yisei. It's an extra tefillah, like we have. We paskin like Rav. It's a whole extra tefillah, another Shmon Esrei, tefillah Shmon Esrei. It's another Shmon Esrei. You daven Shmon Esrei 4 times a day on Yom Kippur. Shmuel Amar, Shmuel says it's the words Ma'anu Mechayenu. It's a tefillah Ma'anu Mechayenu. It's not a whole Shmon Esrei, but it's a tefillah Ma'anu Mechayenu. But you don't go ahead and daven a Shmon Esrei. We're up to Pei Zayin Amid Beis, where the first wide line, they're not very wide line. So you, Shmuel, say it's just a tefillah bakasha, but not an extra tefillah of a Shmon Esrei. Mesivei, we're going to slug up Shmuel. Or Yom Kippurim, the night of Yom Kippur, Mispalul Sheva, you say 7 brachas. Shmon Esrei, you say the 3 in the beginning brachas, the 3 end brachas, and 1 in the middle. Umisvada b'shachris, and misvada. Or Yom Kippur, Mispalul Sheva misvada. B'shachris, Mispalul Sheva misvada. B'musaf mispalul sheva misvada, b'minchas mispalul sheva misvada, and here's your kasha, b'nila mispalul sheva u'misvada. So you see by nila you are davening 7. 7 means you're davening Shmon Esrei. So that's a kasha on Shmuel who said that what? That you don't daven Shmon Esrei. It's just an irid bakasha. It's just an irid bakasha, but not that it's a whole new Shmon Esrei. Skip the next line, end of the line. And you end off this tefillah with vidui. They say also you daven 7. Either one is an upshlag on Shmuel because they're both saying you say Shmon Esrei. If you want to say vidui, then you can. Tiyufta the Shmuel tiyufta. This is an upshlag on Shmuel because again Shmuel said Ne'ilah is not a whole tefillah with accompanied by a Shmon Esrei. It's just about kasha me'onu mechayenu. So we see from here that no, it's a brecha sheva, the 3 beginning brachas of Shmon Esrei, 3 latter brachas of Shmon Esrei, and the bracha in between. Ula bar Rav, nachis kamei de Rava. Ula bar Rav went down in front of Rava. Went down goes, they used to meet Miyamak Krasich Hashem, they would daven from a lower place. So he went down to lead the tefillah in front of Rava. Pasach be'ata b'chartanu. He began ata b'chartanu, meaning he davened Shmon Esrei. Guys, ata b'chartanu is the beginning bracha, right? It's the first bracha of the Sheva after the 3. Good. V'sayim b'me'onu mechayenu, and he finished off like Shmuel. The Shabchei and Rava praised him because Ula bar Rav was being yotza both days. He was being yotza Rav by saying an additional Shmon Esrei, and it was yotza Shmuel, but the bakasha of me'onu mechayenu. So therefore he praised him. Rav Huna bereid Rav Nasan Amar. A Yachid says Ma'onu Mechayenu after his tefillah. Even though we You don't. He says it in his tefillah. He's chaysim. We say it in Yochid says it after his tefillah. He doesn't say it in the Shmona Esrei itself. Amarav, tefillas neila paiteris eshel arvis. The tefillah of Nila partis ma'ariv. Now, this is the key to the sugya. If neila is said during the day, there's no way it can pat the ma'ariv. If it's said at the same time of ma'ariv at night, then the Shmona Esrei you're saying neila can pat the ma'ariv. So Mimela, when Rav says that neila patis ma'ariv, we can deduce that he must hold that neila is said at nightfall, the same zman that ma'ariv is said. Since it's said at the same time, it can pater it. If, however, it was said during the day, there's no way it can pater it. Good? So, says Rav, tefillah neila pateres eshel arvis. Rav l'tamei, this is Rav according to his reasoning, the Omar, tzilusi yiseirehi, it's an extra Shmona Esrei. The kimin it's solilei, since you daven the Shmona Esrei, a third Shmona Esrei of the day, sulei tzarach, you don't have to daven another one. So it says Rav that the tefillah of neila patas ma'ariv. Fred the Gemara, mi amar Rav hachi, v'amar Rav halacha kediri oimer tefillas arvis v'shus. The halacha is like tefillas arvis v'shus. Now, what do you mean it patas, guys? When you say it patas, it must mean there's a chiyuv, right? To patas something means there's a chiyuv and you pata. You say tachlan, except, right? There's a chiyuv to say tachlan. And then the moil walks into shul, he patas you from saying tachlan. So when the Gemara uses the lashon that it patas you from ma'ariv, it must be holds ma'ariv is a chayva. But if he holds it for a shus, it's a problem. Now there's a long taisus over here. We'll do it when we get to Masech the Brachas again. We did it there. Okay, now. And for the Gemara, that lashon that it patas is going to the one that says it's a chayv. But either way, Rav holds that tefillas arvis is tefillah of Nila said at night, and thus it patas what? It patas the chayv. It patas ma'ariv. Mesidei or Yom Kippurim mispalol sheva u'misvadeh. Shachris sheva u'misvadeh. Musaf sheva u'misvadeh. B'neila mispalol sheva u'misvadeh. And here's comes Akasha, guys. Arvis mispalol sheva me'ein shmona esrei. Arvis, you're going to daven, having what's called Habinenu. We met that in Tfilas HaShachar. It's kind of an abridged version of Shmona Esrei. The 3 in the beginning, the 3 in the end, those 6, and then a condensed 12 in the middle, right? So guys, what do you see from this brisa? That there you daven Ma'ariv, even though you said Ne'ilah. It said Ne'ilah, then Ma'ariv. But according to Rav, this should be Ma'ariv. This should just be Ne'ilah. By the fact it says you daven Ma'ariv is a raya that doesn't pater it. The Brisa continues. Rabbi Chanina bar Gamliel mishum avasav mispalo shmone esrei shleimus. You go ahead and daven a full shmone esrei. They should tzarich leima havdalah b'chonin adas, because you have to say havdalah b'chonin adas. The bottom line is, guys. The bottom line is, if you see, despite the fact that he's saying the Elah, you still have to say Ma'ariv. Kasha on Rav. And for the Gemara Tanahi, again, as I always mention, the last teretz you want to say is that Rav is nichtas into anyone is nichtas to machlokas tanoim. It's the most gekvetchte dike pshat. In Rav's case, there's even you can go ahead and go one step further. The Gemara, when it has no other teretz, will say Rav Tanahu Polik. They'll say Rav is a Tana and he argues. It comes up many times in Shas. So over here, we're saying that it's a machlokas tanoim. Now we're going to have to extrapolate from this Tana that somehow that Ma'ariv is that Nila Pat is Ma'ariv. The way to do it is by saying Ne'ilah is said at night, and since it's said at night, it patas the tefillah of the night, which is Ma'ariv. Good. Now let's see how this is done. Again, this is a classic Gemara because it's just a classic. The Tanya. Kol chayvei tefillos, all people who are tamei in various different forms. Toivlin kedarkam Yom Kippurim. They go ahead and they're toivl normally on Yom Kippur. In other words, on Yom Kippur we know there's an Isra Chitza, but as we also know that Isra Chitza is the Rabbanan. And even if you're going to say it's the Rabban, it's the Raisa, that would only be a Rechitza for Ta'anug, a Rechitza for pleasure. Over here where you're going to the mikvah not for pleasure, but for purity, to go ahead and purify you, then that we permitted, okay? So that's the first din. And now we'll get more specific. So the din, there is no problem of being toivel to be go ahead and retire yourself from your tumah on Yom Kippur, despite the issa of the inui of rechitza. Neither v'yoledes. Now they go to the mikveh. They go to the mikveh during the night. Neither v'yoledes. Toivles kedarkon. They go b'leila Yom Kippur, on the night of Yom Kippur. The night of Yom Kippur, whatever the nighttime is, they go to the mikveh. Bal keri. Now this is the gezerah of Ezra. Ezra said about keri is tamei. Now midoraisa Bal keri is tamei, but not from davening, not from he's tamei from eating truma until he goes to the mikveh, and then it's full yoim erev shemesh. But stamazoi to learn, they said, of course, people were found eitzel their wives like too common. So Ezra made a takana, and the takana was that you can't learn Torah if you're a Bal keri. So that would refrain that they shouldn't be nimsa eitzel their wives so often. So now that's the takana of Ezra. So when does he go to the mikveh? He goes to the mikveh until mincha. That's what the Chacham say. He goes to the mikveh until mincha. He goes to the mikveh the whole day. Now, what do you mean he goes to until mincha? After mincha, guys, after mincha he doesn't go to the mikveh. Why? Because there's no tefillah after mincha. What's the tefillah after mincha? Ne'ilah. Good. When's Ne'ilah going to be now? It must be at night. Because if it was during the day, he'd be able to go even after mincha, guys. In other words, you're going to the mikveh because you want to daven. Says the Chachamim, you can only go to the mikveh up till mincha. In other words, if you didn't daven mincha yet, you can go to the mikveh. Once you daven mincha, you can't go to the mikveh. But why? Don't I have to go to the mikveh for Ne'ilah? What's the answer? Ne'ilah is not during Yom Kippur anymore, guys. It's not during the day. Ne'ilah is at night. And you can go to the mikveh at night. So very geschmack. This Chachamim who say you go to the mikveh at night, that's the Shita of Rav. That's Rav who holds that what? That since Ne'ilah is said at night, it pat is Ma'ariv. Rabbi Yossi Yemekol Yom Kula. Rabbi Yossi says, no, you can go to the mikveh the whole day. Because he holds Ne'ilah is said even during the day. So I have to go to the mikveh to pata to say Ne'ilah. If I say Ne'ilah during the day, it doesn't pata the Ma'ariv. So now I just proved you said to me you had a kasha that right from that Ne'ilah doesn't pata. That's Rabbi Yossi. That's Rabbi Yossi, the one that says Ne'ilah doesn't pata. I hold Ne'ilah pata holds like the Chachamim that you can only go to the mikveh up to mincha because there's no tefillah after mincha. The next tefillah is going to take place at nightfall. At nightfall, then go to the mikveh at nightfall, and that's the Ne'ilah. So that's the raya. So that's the raya to Rav Shita. Guys, you got that? Good? You good? Guys, you good? One more time, are you good? Let's see in Rashi. Let me go through Rashi with you guys. Let's see Rashi. Toivel b'hoylech ad mincha. First in line. In ireloi keri koydem lechein. If he sees keri before mincha, toivel kedei sheyuchel ispalel tefillas mincha. Go to the mikveh in order to facilitate you davening mincha. Avol roa keri min mincha u'mayla. If he sees keri from mincha and above, ein mutter litfol. He's not mutter to go ahead to the mikveh. Ele yamtim, you wait, ad shetechshach, until it gets dark, v'yitfol, and then you go to the mikveh at night. The svirul rabbanon, the tefillas ne'ilah is belayla, that the tefillah of ne'ilah is at night. Ulidithu, and according to them, poiteres es shel arvis. Since it's at night, it patters the other tefillah of the night, which is Ma'ariv. Kid Rav, like Rav. V'hodik toni eina poiteres. And that brisa that we asked on Rav that says it doesn't pata, Rabbi Yossi, that's the Tana Rabbi Yossi. We're going to see Rabbi Yossi, which Rabbi Yossi? The Amar Kol Hayoim Mutter Litfol. The whole day it's mutter to go to the mikvah. Why? Mafilu Ra Keri Lachat Tfilas Aminchad Toivel B'Yoim Kedei L'Spalot Tfilas Ne'ilah. Right? Because Ne'ilah is during the day. Al Makasava Tfilas Ne'ilah Ein Zman B'Layla U'Lidei Ein Peiteres Esh Shel Arvis. So the brisa that said it doesn't pata is Rabbi Yossi, and the one that says it does, the one that says it does pata, the Rav Shita, the Chachamim, that's Rav.
So,
Okay.
like, where do we get that we do we say Nilo as the sun is going down? So that's not either of them.
Right, that's during the day. You want to get Nilo
that during
before.
the day.
Yeah, that's still considered
Okay.
the day. Okay. Uriminu, I'll ask you a steer. Oh, guys, let's get clear the sheet is. Rabbanan hold until Mincha. Rabbi Yossi holds until what? Rabbi Yossi holds until the whole day, right? Got it? Chacham and Mincha, Rabbi Yossi all day. We're going to ask a steer now. Uriminu. Hazava Azava Mitzayra. They all go to the mikveh, right? Vamitzaras ubol nida v'tamei meis tovim kedarkan b'yom kippur. Nida b'yeledes tavelis kedarkan b'leili yom kippur. Valkeri tovim v'hoilach kol yom kula. Valkeri goes the whole day. Who's that? The Chachamim. Kash on the Chachamim, the Chachamim. Rabbi Yossi Yomer min amincha l'mayla. Right? Ein yochel litfol. So you have a stira. Right? Guys, you have a stira. Yeah? The first one said, Rabbi Yossi said the whole day. And here Rabbi Yossi is saying what? Until mincha. First one said the Chachamim mincha. Here they're saying the whole day. Like Kash, it's not a problem. How did Soli Tfilis Ne'ilah? When you daven Ne'ilah already, you don't have to go to the mikvah. Had Lois Soli. One is when you didn't daven yet. Says the Gemara, Edith Soli, my time with the Rabbanon. If right, why did the Rabbanon hold that what? That you go to the mikvah. If you daven already, then what's the purpose of going to the mikvah? And for the Gemara, the Rabbanan Kasav Rabbanan Tefillah Bismana Mitzvah. In other words, there's I davened already, so you guys, so why am I going to the mikvah? You became tummy after you davened, so why are you going to the mikvah? So the answer is the Chacham will Tefillah Bismana Mitzvah. In other words, we saw earlier in the Masechta that if you have this amount of tefillah, it's a mitzvah to do it in that time and not delay it. So therefore, even though there's nothing gained over here vis-a-vis davening, but to go ahead and have tefillah in the proper time, that you could do. Says Rashi, Kasava tefillah b'zman mitzvah, uzman b'yoimhu, dichsiv, v'yelifnais erev, yirchatz, hilkach, dachir rechitza the Yom Kippurim, it pushes off Yom Kippur, v'lav height now, v'lav hanu hak Rabbanan dil el, it's not the same as Rabbanan as before. V'tarti pluk tayu nimi, there's two machlokes in Mastisam. Mastisam kamaisa, pligi b'zman tefillas ne'ilah, the first one, the Rabbanan b'layla, Rabbi Yossi b'yoim. Rabbanan the Hassam, the second Rabbanan Svir Lahu, Tefillah Bisman Lav Mitzvah, the Titchi Yom Kippurim. Therefore, you have to wait till after Yom Kippur, only till Mincha. So now, guys, let's go back to the second Brisa. Uriminu Hazav Hazav Mitzvah Mitzaras. Uboy Nida V'Tamei Meis Tayvim Kedarkan Yom Kippur. Nida V'Yeledis Tavelis Kedarkan B'Lo Yom Kippur. Balkeri Tayvim V'Holach Kala Yom Kula. Why? Because Tefillah Bismana is a mitzvah. Tefillah Bismana is a mitzvah, right? And therefore, even though you davened already, you go to the mikvah. That's it. You can't daven anymore, right? Why? Because he ostensibly Tefillah Bismana is not a mitzvah. I said the Gemara, how do you answer Rabbi Yossi? Rabbi Yossi over here to Rabbi Yossi before said you could go to the mikvah. He says you can't. Says the Gemara that you davened already. So since you daven, you don't have to go to the mikvah. So it says the Gemara, very good. If you daven already, according to Rabbi Yossi, you don't have to go to the mikvah. Why do Chacham say you do have to go to the mikvah? Because they hold Tefillah Bismana as a mitzvah. Good. Now, Mechlal we can afford Rabbi Yossi Saba that lav mitzvah, that Tefillah Bismana is not a mitzvah. When Rabbi Yossi says, guys, that Rabbi Yossi says in the second brisa that you only go over to mincha, he must hold Tefillah Bismana as lav mincha. In other words, guys, what? I went to the mikvah. After mincha, I became tamei. I don't go to the mikvah again. Why don't I go to the mikvah? It's because Tefillah Bismana lav mitzvah. Vatanya, we had this earlier in the Masechta. A person has written on his flesh the Shem of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and it's asa to erase it. You shouldn't go wash it, and you shouldn't rub oil on it. You shouldn't erase it. Because of the kedusha of the name, you should not stand in a place, a latrine, a dirty schmutzitika place, like Yankee Stadium. Right? There's diamond loy tefillah mitzvah. There's diamond loy tefillah mitzvah. If it happens with a tefillah mitzvah, so meaning you have to go. So koyrech alav gemi, you tie gemi around it, that it should not be exposed. That, in other words, you're doing it that it shouldn't be. The shame should not see dirty things. So you're going ahead and covering it up. V'yoyrid v'toivel. Okay. Now this gemi is some type of reed, some types of grass. Right? We asked about chatzitza. We said that the water goes through a little bit. If the water goes through, it's not grama. Maybe the ink itself is chatzitza. That's what Yankel Zucker said. I answered Yaakov Zucker that the Gemara in Shabbos says is speaking about wet, so it's not a chatzitza. Just like the blood underneath the feet of the kahanim, not a chatzitza. Anyway, Rabbi Yossi Omer, Yoyrid v'toivel kedarkoi. You don't have to get a reed. Why don't you have to get a reed? Because it's a mitzvah to go to the mikveh right then and there. If it's a mitzvah to go to the mikveh right then and there, right, you don't get a gemi. So what do you see? He holds tefillah bismana is a mitzvah. So you have a stira. In the first price, he's holding tefillah bismana as lav mitzvah. Here he holds tefillah bismana as a mitzvah. U'bilvad shelo yishav sheif. The kaimalon, the tefillah bismana mitzvah pligi. And for the Gemara, the first brisa, hahi Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yehuda. That is Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yehuda. Guys, there's two Rabbi Yossi. The most Rabbi Yossi and Shas, the one Rabbi Yossi that we say Nimuka Imai, that the Lach is like Rabbi Yossi because the Svar is with him, is Rabbi Yossi ben Chalafta. Rabbi Yossi ben Chalafta. This Rabbi Yossi, we have two Rabbi Yossis over here. The latter brisa, the one we just discussed, that said Tefillah Bismana Mitzvah, that's Rabbi Yossi ben Chalafta. The earlier brisa that argue on the Chomim, that said that if you don't have to go to the mikvah because Tefillah Bismana Lav Mitzvah, you can delay it till after Yom Kippur, that's Rabbi Yossi ben Yehuda. The Tanya of Yossi Yehuda Omer, Dayol Tefillah Shetei Ba'achreina. So just to end the Masechta, there's a very hard Nida Dika Cheshbon over here that you can have a bunch of tefillahs. So Rabbi Yossi Yehuda says, just go one time in the end and patter up all of them. In other words, you don't have to go after 80 days, after this cheshbon, that cheshbon. It's a very hard cheshbon that goes through, that we're not going to go through. The bottom line is, he says, the last one, one will patter all of them. The last one is, you're not doing it bismana. So why do you see Rabbi Yossi ben Yehuda holds? Tefillah b'mitzvah, la bismana, you don't have to do it bisman. And that would be good. Okay, it's funny. We began the Masechta with being parish, taking the Kohen Gadol, being Mesaken under the Kohen Gadol, separating him. We were worried about Tumas Keri. We finished it with that. Tana Rabbanan. Haroya Keri v'Yom Kippurim. If someone sees Keri in Yom Kippur, Yoyrid v'Toivel, he goes down, he goes to the mikvah. Ula Erev, in the evening, Yishav Sheif, he rubs himself. Now, kind of crazy thing. When you're rubbing yourself, it means you want to make sure there's not dirt on you for chatzitza, right? So look at the order of things. He goes to the mikvah, and then at night he rubs himself. Right? The Gemara, why is he cleaning himself up in the evening? Whatever was. Don't say that he rubs himself after the tefillah, guys. On Yom Kippur, Erev Yom Kippur, he made sure there was no chatzitza on his body. Yishav Sheif, he shampooed himself and cleaned himself in case he saw Keri on Yom Kippur. Now, I heard there's a Taisus Yontif says that, and there's a beautiful Torah on this, guys. We speak about Keri Yom Kippur. What was the concern? He said that the Taisus Yontif says anytime there's tremendous kedusha, you're going to find tremendous tumah. Anytime there's tremendous kedusha, you're going to find tremendous koyach tumah. It has to always offset itself. Here you have the Kohen Gadol. He's going to go l'fnai l'fnim. He's going to be in a place that the holiest day of the year, the koyach tumah is so powerful. It's very mistaba for him to see Keri, right? And therefore we had to have an plan inside. Now it's so mistaber. You might remember, guys, that we count one of the nisim that what? The Kohen Gadol never saw Keri on Yom Kippur. Now, if it was a nes, mistama, it should be common too. So when you see these things, you go through these things, the cheshbainis, right? You should be aware that they make a lot of sense. Not that the Gemara needs my stamp of approval, but it's amazing. Like when you give a perspective, right? It gives a whole different perspective. And we'll hold off on the rest, Bez Hashem. So we're going to finish on Monday night. Tomorrow we're going to begin Sukkah. Again, it would be nice to see everybody. If they can't make it in the morning, maybe I should make it in the afternoon. I don't know what to do. Would the afternoon be better for people?
Whatever, tomorrow's fine, whatever. We keep it the same. I don't know.
We did last year. We did at 4:30 in the afternoon. We used to do it, right?
Does 4:30 work better than 11 o'clock in the morning, 12 o'clock in the morning?
Depends.
It depends.
For me,
right?
it's good, but yeah.
Like, the morning is, well, I don't know.
Okay, listen, maybe just tomorrow. Let's call it 4:30. Let's call it for 4:30 tomorrow. See if that works. See if we get a bigger following. 4:30 tomorrow. Again, the Seam is Monday night by Benji's house. We're having a homemade barbecue. I will be grilling. Benji will be grilling. Everyone should come and partake. It's the 9 days, but I feel it's not one of these suyumim that just happened to show up in the 9 days. It's a real siyum.
And only,
Excuse me.
and only,
I think men only, but
We
don't know.
need to
What
play
time-
What time are you starting?
what time? Probably. I think I'd say we start Sunday night.
We're starting in the late spring.
What time Matzah Shabbos?
Like the Shabbos is going to be about 10:15, probably 10:15, because I learn with my chavrusa afterwards. Okay. So have a good Shabbos, everybody.
any special Svarim for Sukkah?
Any special sukkah on sukkah?
Yeah,
Yeah, you know what? I have a Pirish Chai.
Yeah, we use the Pirish Chai.